It is quiet here, brother. Too quiet for my tastes. Something feels wrong. Shh! There! Movement in the tree line. An ambush is imminent. We must be ready. If we cross the river, we could escape through the southern gates. Or we could attempt to survive the ambush through force of arms. This hill would make a good defensive position en route, should more forces arrive. Prepare for battle, brother, and may your blade strike true!
And let's pause. Yes, it's always good to start a Total War preview like that, isn't it? Hello, my name is Chris Barrett, and welcome to Rock Paper Shotgun. This is, of course, Total War Three Kingdoms. Probably not the first time you've seen this game on this channel, however, this will be the first time that the media was allowed to both play and capture the gameplay as they go along, which is exactly what I did a couple of weeks ago. In this battle, which I'm going to talk you through, it's called the Ambush of Soon Ren, who we're about to get a close-up look at. If you don't know who Soon Ren is, you might not be familiar with the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, or indeed Dynasty Warriors, which is another series based upon that story. Well, Soon Ren is the daughter of a very famous general called Sun Quan, and he is one of the playable characters. I think there are 11 playable characters in Three Kingdoms. Yeah, similar to the Total War Warhammer games, you're playing as the characters themselves here rather than the factions. It's only a slight difference, and it, to some extent, is about semantics, but there are some important differences here. For example, characters, like proper characters in Total War Three Kingdoms, including Sun Quan, for example, can actually die, and then they're dead, and the game continues without them. So that's a little difference. You couldn't have that with, say, Call Friends in Total War Warhammer. Anyway, Sun Quan has just been betrayed by another character in this game, and this is the ambush that is taking place as a result. His daughter and her brother, Sun Quan, you can see there I've got them grouped on number 2. These two family members are going to have to try and fight back this ambush, or try and retreat to those gates that were mentioned in the intro cutscene. You can retreat and perhaps save more soldiers, however it's classed as a defeat, and I thought that would look pretty rubbish for a video preview. So of course we're going to try and fight back the initial attack. So right now you can see that actually the forces that we're up against, there's a lot of light melee infantry compared to some of our medium infantry and heavy spearmen. Like, this isn't a dangerous force for us to deal with. However, as you'll see, it is only one wave out of 3 different attacks that we're going to have to push back. So because of that, and because I was told I could share exactly 15 minutes of gameplay, I tried my best to play through this battle as efficiently and as quickly as possible to cram it all in, so you could watch almost an entire battle play out with a couple of bits trimmed. So initially we're going to turn and just push straight into this ambush because we have the better quality troops, and because our hero characters are just so much more important. The abilities that these characters have make the Warhammer heroes look pedestrian by comparison. So we have our commander, Sun Quan, who has his very powerful buffs. He can basically make our troops immune to melee and missile damage for a few seconds, which is brilliant when you're just being attacked. And also we have Soon Ren here, who is our Vanguard character. She's got an ability called Heartseeker, and it basically does a huge amount of damage in a single shot. You can only use that 3 times per battle, but as you can see, it just wiped out that first enemy character that we were up against. I should say that enemy character was a low-level strategist. They're not particularly hardy, but yeah, you very rarely see that happen in a Total War game. And because we managed to kill their general so quickly, the morale of these troops has just plummeted, and so we've managed to, without doing too much damage, like a lot of these units have quite a few units left, or a few soldiers left, sorry, without really doing loads of damage, we've just crushed their morale, and we're punishing them now as a result, which is perfect because I know 2 more armies are about to show up, and we need to be sort of ready to deal with those as quickly as possible. That hill, by the way, that we're told to go and take advantage of just down the road, I decided to not do that because I'm playing on the hard difficulty here, which you could play on normal or hard in this particular demo. And at least in the hard difficulty, it seemed very, very tricky to get to that hill with some of my slow-moving units and have any kind of decent position set up before getting attacked by another force, which has just shown up over there, you can see. So instead, I decide to deal with this closer ambush force right here that's just coming out of the forest before the larger one that's coming from my left turns up. So, right, let's talk about the units a little bit. You can see these two at the back who are firing flame missiles. They're actually spearmen that have a dual purpose. They're spearmen and bowmen at the same time, which is really interesting to use. One of their formations, which you might see me take advantage of later, actually allows the front two lines of that unit to move forwards and create like a spear wall, whilst the rest of them fire missiles over the top of them. A really versatile kind of unit, and quite different to what we've seen before. Oh, and here is something very, very important. So this character that's coming up now, much hardier than the strategist that we just one-shotted. However, I'm still going to try and land a Heartseeker ability and just bring his health down. However, I'm then going to start a duel, which is a new function to the Total War series, and it basically, creates a 1v1 setup where all other units, if the duel is accepted by the other character, which it has been, all other units will stand back and not get involved in this conflict. It's simply these two characters now, Soon Ren and this enemy general, fighting in a 1v1 life and death battle. And there's not really a huge amount that I can do to influence this right now, other than use my character's abilities. I can't use Heartseeker because it's a ranged attack. However, I have a sort of AoE pushback ability, which I'll use whenever it's off cooldown, just to give me a slight upper hand. But it's interesting because it locks your character into this situation. The only option you have is if you think your character is going to die and you want to get out of there, you can flee from the duel, but you take a permanent loss to your character's morale, and I think it has an impact maybe on the campaign map as well, although we're yet to see that. So yeah, you really only want to lock into this duel situation if you think you can definitely win, or if you want to basically wrap up a character in combat with one of your lesser heroes whilst you do something else with your others. Yeah, it's really interesting, and I like how it ties into the idea of the Three Kingdoms being all about honor and prestige in combat. And yeah, certain characters are better at it than others. So Soon Ren here is known as a vanguard character. That means she's very good actually at dealing with large numbers of units. She can just get into the middle of combat, hit multiple units at a time, push them back, and her abilities are built around that as well. Sun Quan here wouldn't be particularly good in a duel because he is mostly about buffing nearby units, because he's a commander type, but there is also a champion type, a character that specializes in 1v1 combat, so maybe that's something you want to work into your armies, I guess, so you can really take advantage of dueling. Now, this larger force is pushing forwards here. However, there's a disparity in how quickly these units can move. They have some very heavy spearmen, it looks like, at the back there, so their general has rushed forwards almost on his own to try and help his ally here. And what happens at this stage is that because I've taken down two heroes fairly easily with Soon Ren, I think I may have got a little overconfident. Oh, this is a nice touch. So in that duel that I just had, I got knocked off my horse. However, the horse is a persistent object in the battle, and so by pressing toggle mount, I asked Soon Ren to run back to where the duel was happening and find a horse, before engaging in another duel, which you can see there was a terrible mistake. Soon Ren is already quite injured. Her melee toughness is down to 53,000 now compared to his 330,000. Terrible decision. The duel is completely against me. And as I said, if she dies in this battle, that would be it for the rest of the campaign. Soon Ren, Sun Jian's daughter, would be dead and there's no coming back. Yeah. So I need to maybe think about how I can influence that. I'm keeping Sun Quan nearby because those two characters are family members, they're brother and sister. They actually provide each other a pretty handy buff to their combat abilities throughout the battle, but it's not quite enough to turn the tide on that. And so I think I'm going to have to pause the game and retreat. Now you can see there I take a -25 hit to my morale permanently, and it's just a bit embarrassing, isn't it? So, because that's happened, I'm sending Sun Quan in to try and basically tie up this hero and make sure they don't chase Soon Ren and catch her as she flees. And to make sure I can lock him in combat, because I know he's accepting duels, I've requested one from my second character. But again, that's going to be a tough battle to win. Although I have the upper hand on melee toughness, I don't have any abilities that can really improve my dueling capabilities here. So that's going to be a tight one. As for the rest of the battle, you can see in the bottom right here, the strength of our two forces are pretty even. So really, whoever wins this duel, because it has such a large impact on the morale of your troops, whoever wins this duel will probably end up winning the entire battle itself. How are the rest of our troops doing? So we are tied up in combat there with, it looks like our melee infantry, or the medium infantry have started to flee, but our heavy spearmen are still tied up in combat. Okay. And we have a unit of our cavalry fleeing, but one of them is okay, so we'll try and get that somewhere useful. The problem here, though, is we're now fighting against that slower spearman of the second force there, and really cavalry don't do very well against spearmen. I don't know if you've heard. So yeah, we'll just have them stay out of combat for the time being, and maybe try and pick off any fleeing units. But really, we do need to win this duel. Yeah, it looks like our melee toughness is down to 7,400. That is tiny, but we just won it and came out of the duel with 2 melee toughness. That is the equivalent of 2 HP, I think. And you might have seen how much I started with. I don't think I could have got, much closer than that. My goodness. So we won't be taking Sun Quan back into the brunt of the combat. We'll have him stand behind our units because he gives them a really nice buff because he's a commander. And I think he'll just stand there and thank his lucky stars that he didn't just get completely murdered, which is good. Okay, so our second unit of cavalry has now stopped fleeing. In fact, one of our units of infantry that had been fleeing has stopped as well. That duel has turned the tide of this. Numbers-wise, we're still very, very even. But morale-wise, if you take a look once we hover over some of their units, look at the difference between our morale and theirs. 27 they're on, whilst we're on 128. So they're about to flee, which is amazing because really, numbers-wise, there's not much in it. That could have gone either way. Okay, so here's something nice to see return in Total War Three Kingdoms. This is formations, yes. So you can see I've just triggered the diamond shape for my cavalry units here. The way I believe this works is that some of those basic formations, like the wedge shape, for example, on cavalry units, they're available from the get-go. However, if you want to use more advanced formations, like the diamond, you need a character on the battlefield that understands strategy and command. So, for example, Sun Quan here. The diamond shape compared to the wedge shape, they both give big charge bonuses, which we want here because we're using him as shot cavalry into the back of these spearmen. However, the diamond shape just makes them a little tougher in combat, which is good for me because I'm worried about them taking losses because they are charging into spearmen after all. And yeah, we'll keep doing that until we see a rout, and then hopefully that should be us. As we come towards the end of this video, I guess I want to wrap up by saying the big thing that this demo has taught me about Three Kingdoms is how important characters are. Now, there are two different modes. You've probably heard this already. There's the romance mode and the classic mode that you can play in, and this is romance. But in that mode, characters are everything. I thought they were in Total War Warhammer. This is on a whole nother level. So you've got their abilities, which are hugely important. You can one-shot some enemy characters, as you saw. You can buff your units so they're basically invulnerable for a short period of time. The dueling mechanic is really important and can turn a battle, as we've just seen in the last few minutes. Characters are everything, and I can't wait to see how that translates to the campaign map as well. If you're a big Romance of the Three Kingdoms fan, or if you really like the hero stuff in Warhammer, I think this looks pretty exciting. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to RPS for more Three Kingdoms stuff later down the line. Pyrrhic victory. honestly.